Hello and welcome to another My Aspie marriage video. And in this video I wanted to talk about the first time that we broke up. So to set the scene and the timeline, this is about 2 years after our marriage, 5 years after our counsellor, Jeff, and possibly around 3 years after he's done anger management. The scene is we were at one of his work dues, and it was one of the first times that I'd gone out and actually enjoyed myself. I don't usually enjoy these work dues. It's a lot of sort of small talk that bothers me. You know, what do you do? How many children have you got? What are their names? What are their ages? It's not very interesting conversation. But this particular night I was sitting across the way from a couple of other work ladies. Hubby was sitting beside me talking to one of his female colleagues, and we were just bantering backwards and forwards. We're having a meal, we're having a few drinks. It's really quite a lovely night. Hubby barely spoke to me. He kind of sort of had his back a little bit like so, body language, lost in the conversation with his female work colleague. And I was having a great old time talking to the ladies across the way. We were joking and laughing and telling funny stories and, you know, just carrying on a little bit, having a good time. Not being stupid or ridiculous, just having fun. And as I mentioned, it was one of the first times that I'd had sort of a really good time in a long time. Almost since meeting my husband, I'd say. And to sort of add to the fun, there were these two French waiters. One was sort of tall and lanky, this kind of Sheldon look-alike, and the other one was more shorter and dark hair, dark skin, kind of more Johnny Depp looking, perhaps. And they were waiting our table and flirting and joking with us and just, you know, having a good old time along with us. Well, when it comes to the flirting, I actually didn't know that. They were just kind of being really friendly and such. And the shorter Johnny Depp kind of waiter goes up to the Sheldon waiter at one stage, because that waiter and Sheldon at the same time, the Sheldon waiter was coming up to serve me, and the other waiter pushes him aside and says, "Oh, don't worry about him, I'm the better one, I come from a better province, you just, you know, focus on me, yada yada yada." Then he walks away, and the ladies across the way, they say, "I think he's flirting with you." And I was thinking, no, I'm a mum, you know, with my mum bod. I don't think he's flirting with me, but he probably was. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It was just part of the fun of the night. One of the ladies across the way starts talking to the big boss, and she was being really frank. She was asking him questions about the future of the company and where her husband's going to stand within that sort of future and things like this. And I remember thinking, that's pretty ballsy, that's pretty brave. She's got some kahunas on her talking to the big boss like that. Anyway, the big boss was laughing and talking with us, and all was well. Then it comes time to leaving. And we get up and we walk towards the exit. And as I get up to walk towards the exit, the waiter with the dark hair starts to walk up to me, and he's smiling at me. And then he just stops and then looks behind me. And that's when my husband had gotten up and come and stood behind me. And that was when the waiter realised that my husband was actually with me. Because all night he had barely spoken to me. You would never have known to look at us that we were a couple. He was, you know, just talking with his female colleague. And so the waiter just stops, realises that I'm taken, smiles and nods at me, and then we leave. And as hubby and I are exiting, I'm chatting away about, "Oh, wasn't this a great night? That was so fun, da 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 da." And hubby's not speaking. And we get in the car and we close the door, and as soon as I look over at him, I see his face. I realise he's in a mood, and I'm instantly like, uh-oh, here we go. You know, like, damn, what a shitty way to end the night. And so I say to him, is everything okay? What's the matter? And he won't speak to me. He's just refusing to talk. I wanted to get out of the car and go back inside and continue the party and go, right, whose house am I crashing at? Because I did not want to be going home with that grumpy old sod who was waiting for me in the car. So we drive home, it's 45 minutes, dead silence, and I'm just staring out the window, feeling really down by this stage. Feeling like this is a really crummy way to end such a good night. And it was so rare for me to have a good time that bothered me even more. Anyway, we get home, and as soon as the front door is closed and he's got me alone in the foyer, he just turns on me. He stands over me and he starts yelling, "Aren't you even gonna ask me what's the matter?" And I say, "No." And he goes, "That's right, because you don't care." Blah, 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 blah. And I said to him, "That's not true. I already asked you what was going on and you refused to answer, so now I don't care." And then he's yelling at me some more. I mean, he's towering over me. He's a giant of a man. He's huge. He goes to the gym. He's beefed up. He's tall. And he's, you know, and I'm there, little me. And I'm just like, here we go, right? Just grown. And anyway, he's attacking. He's in pit bull mode. And he's saying, "How dare you embarrass me in front of the work colleagues," and yada, yada, yada. And he's on and on and on. I can't remember exactly everything that he was saying. And I'm sitting there thinking, are we at the same party? Like, what? And I say to him, "How did I embarrass you? What are you talking about?" And he goes, "If you don't know, then blah, 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 blah," whatever it is that he says about that. And I say to him, "Was it the waiter?" Because I thought maybe he was feeling pissed off or jealous or something, right? And he goes, "What waiter? What are you talking about?" Okay, it's not the waiter, right? So I'm trying to think what on earth I could have done that was so embarrassing. And he starts saying, you know, "You were asking the boss these really, what did he say? You were asking these bosses really inappropriate questions, and how dare you, and you're being loud and obnoxious and blah, 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 blah." And then he says, "And aren't you going to say sorry?" And I'm like, no. In order to say sorry, I would have had to have done something, you know? And I get that it's a feeling within him, and I don't want to downplay his feelings at all. But he's not accusing me of something that happened. I wasn't the one talking to the big boss at all. It was the lady across the way. And that's why I'm thinking, was he at the same party? Like, this is just mad. Anyway, so I say, "No, I'm not going to apologise." He starts yelling some more about how I'm never accountable for anything that I do, and I never say sorry, and on and on and on and on and on. And I'm just kind of standing there waiting for this berating to be over. And then finally he storms off, closes the bedroom door, slams it, you know, and I'm just left standing in the foyer just thinking, what the hell? What the hell just happened? Anyway, I go and sleep somewhere else. The next morning he gets up and he asks me again if I'm going to apologise, and I say no. I say to him, "I didn't do anything wrong, I was fine. Like, I know I was there, you know." And he's telling me that I drank too much, so what would I remember, and blah, blah, blah. And I know that I wasn't. I was tipsy at best. And I'm just thinking, I don't have an issue with my memory. Like, it's not that really crazy things happened, like I got up and did a tabletop dance or something, and I don't remember. Like, that just didn't happen. So I'm like, you know, I don't mind apologising for something I actually did. If you accuse me of something I actually did, I don't mind. But this is just bizarre to me. I don't understand. Anyway, he says, "Well, I'm not doing this with you. This relationship is over. Relationship is shitty. You're never accountable. You never say sorry, blah, 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 blah." He packs his bags and he goes. I'm like, whoa, hurricane, you know. And he's gone for 4 weeks. And in that time, he's talking to me about how we're going to be splitting assets and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, it's not even been, 4 weeks. What are you talking about? But whatever. And I just felt really shattered, to be honest. I felt really down, really depressed. I'd had such an awesome night, and this is how it was ending. I was so bummed out, you know. And here's this guy who's left and he's carrying on. He's talking about splitting assets, and I was just in this really flat and depressed mood. Just, anyway. He goes to work and he finally asks one of the guys, and I don't know what was said, but I guarantee you he did not tell that guy he reamed me out. No chance. No chance. He would have said something about how he was embarrassed of his wife, or he was worried his wife was embarrassing or something. And this guy, whose wife it was who was opposite me talking to the big head honcho about inappropriate, well, questions my husband deemed inappropriate, he says to my partner, there was absolutely nothing the matter with your wife. She was fine. And then he says, if anything, my wife was the one that I should be embarrassed about. She's asking the head honcho all these questions, you know. So he remembered, he was there, he got it. Anyway, that makes my husband realise that I was fine and that I was right as well. Although that part I don't think really stood out in his mind. So he comes back 4 weeks later, bags in hand, and says, I spoke to a guy at work. He says there was nothing wrong with your behaviour. I overreacted and I'm moving back in. And that's that. That's it. There's no sorry. There's no acknowledging. There's no understanding the angst and the sadness and whatever that outburst caused. There's no explaining why he suddenly had that outburst. It's just left. Just left. And I'm there just feeling really awful because one of the best nights of my life in a really long time was ruined by the ending. And I was just bummed out by that. And so that was the first time we split up. It was annoying and irritating and questionable and unusual, and I don't understand it. Hey, if you get what happened there, let me know, because I'm still scratching my head a little bit. And so yeah, that's how that night went. Great night, ruined by a miserable ending. Such is life. If you have any comments with regards to this video, please leave a comment below. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video.